The sky over Earth had never been so dark. The once blue heavens were now a canvas of swirling black and red, streaked with the lights of distant explosions. A massive alien fleet, hundreds of ships, hung in the atmosphere like a looming nightmare. From the depths of space, they had come, descending on Earth with a brutal, unstoppable force. The alien ships unleashed their weapons in perfect synchrony, sending waves of destruction toward the planet below. Orbital bombardment shook the surface of the Earth. Buildings that had once been towering symbols of human achievement crumbled in seconds, reduced to rubble. The few remaining cities, once vibrant hubs of life, were now nothing more than ruins. The last human stronghold, New Terra, the capital city, stood as the final beacon of resistance. Its once pristine streets were now scarred by craters and fires, and smoke poured from every corner. The battle for survival was reaching its climax. On the ground, panic swept through the streets. People screamed in terror, running for shelter, while others took up arms to fight back. It was clear to everyone. Humanity's final hour had arrived. The alien invaders, far superior technologically, with their fleets and their advanced weapons, were too much to overcome. The once proud human race was being crushed under the weight of an alien empire that had come to claim Earth for themselves. In the midst of this chaos, Lieutenant John Bonner, a battle-worn soldier, raced through the streets of New Terra. His armor was scorched and dented, his face smeared with dirt and blood. His heart pounded in his chest as he sprinted toward the edge of the city, his mind focused on a singular objective: the abandoned military base on the outskirts of the city. Bonner had seen it all. He had fought in countless skirmishes, watched comrades fall in brutal combat, and witnessed the complete decimation of human defenses. But this was different. The aliens were not just attacking. They were annihilating. The very heart of humanity's hope lay in the base he was heading to, and it was his mission to reach it, no matter the cost. As Bonner pushed forward, the ground trembled beneath his feet. A shockwave from an incoming alien blast sent him tumbling to the ground, his body slamming hard against the pavement. Groaning, he staggered to his feet, the sounds of explosions and laser fire echoing around him. He was almost there, just a few more blocks. The base was within his reach. He rounded a corner and finally saw the outline of the military complex through the haze of smoke. The base, once a symbol of humanity's technological advancement, was now little more than a relic. Abandoned years ago, it was forgotten by most. But Bonner knew better. He knew that the Warbeasts, the ancient mechs humanity had created to protect themselves, lay dormant within the base, waiting for the right moment to awaken. With every ounce of strength left in him, Bonner sprinted the final stretch. The base's massive steel doors loomed ahead, but as he approached, a series of deep, resonating sounds echoed from within. Something stirred inside. The old mechanisms, long rusted and forgotten, suddenly hummed to life. Bonner stopped in his tracks, his breath ragged. He turned toward the door as it began to slowly open, the sound of ancient gears grinding against each other piercing the air. Inside, in the depths of the forgotten hangar, lay the answer to humanity's last hope. The Warbeast, a massive hulking figure, half buried beneath layers of dust and debris. Once a symbol of humanity's might in the face of overwhelming alien opposition, the Warbeasts had been created during the last Great War, centuries ago. They were humanity's ultimate weapon. Massive mechanized soldiers designed to fight off alien invaders, but they had been sealed away after the war ended, forgotten by all. Bonner's eyes widened as the Warbeast's enormous metal hand twitched. It was awakening. From within the shadow of the massive machine, the dim light of the Warbeast's glowing eyes flickered on. For a brief moment, it seemed as though time stood still. Bonner felt his heart race, unsure whether this was a miracle or a final death sentence. The Warbeast's eyes blinked again, and a deep mechanical voice echoed through the hangar, its words fractured and distorted by centuries of dormancy. System. Reboot. Warbeast. Engaged. Bonner staggered back, his heart pounding. The machine was coming back online. The enormous metal limbs slowly began to move, creaking and groaning under the strain of long years of disuse. Each step the Warbeast took sent tremors through the ground, as if the very earth itself was waking from a deep slumber. But before Bonner could fully process the sight before him, his radio crackled to life. The voice on the other end was distorted, barely recognizable through the static. It was a transmission from the front lines of Nuterra. "Lieutenant, Bonner, they're here. We can't hold them. The alien fleet, it's too much." The message cut off abruptly, leaving Bonner in stunned silence. His fingers tightened around the radio, but he couldn't respond. The air around him felt thick, as if the weight of the situation had pressed down on his chest. He looked back at the Warbeast. It had fully awakened now, towering above him. Its glowing eyes locked onto him as if assessing whether to treat him as friend or foe. Bonner knew this moment would decide everything. With the city falling and the alien forces closing in, humanity's future rested on this machine. The Warbeast, humanity's last hope, was now coming back to life after centuries of slumber. It was no longer just a relic of the past. It was the last line of defense against an unstoppable alien force. Bonner's leg gave way beneath him as pain shot through his body. He had been injured in the battle, but the adrenaline kept him moving. He slowly stumbled forward, his voice shaky but determined. "Activate all systems. If this is going to work, we need everything we've got." The Warbeast's internal systems hummed as if responding to Bonner's words. The massive machine's claws clenched into fists, its armored joints shifting and locking into place. For a moment, Bonner dared to believe that humanity still had a chance. But then, from above, the unmistakable sound of alien ships descending filled the air. They were coming. The alien command ship, enormous and menacing, dropped from the sky, hovering just above the base. Bonner's eyes widened in terror as he realized what was happening. The Warbeast was still activating. Its systems were coming online, but it wasn't ready. The aliens had arrived too soon. The clock was ticking, and they were about to face overwhelming odds. With a final, shaky breath, Bonner's voice faltered as he spoke his last words to the Warbeast, knowing they may be the last words he ever spoke. "The war is not over." And then, as the alien commander's ship landed just yards away, the world around him seemed to fall apart. The Warbeast's systems were almost fully operational. But would it be enough to turn the tide? Would it awaken in time to save humanity from extinction? Or would this be the last stand of the human race? As Bonner collapsed to the ground, everything went black. The battle had only just begun. The Warbeast's massive form towered over Lieutenant Bonner as it came fully online. The once dormant machine now hummed with life, its metal joints grinding and shifting as it adjusted to its environment. The eyes of the beast flickered, glowing a fierce blue as its systems scanned the area, calibrating weapons and sensors. Bonner, weak from his injuries, struggled to stay conscious as he watched this enormous creation of humanity awaken from its long slumber. This was the hope of all mankind, the Warbeast, humanity's final weapon, the last defense against the alien invaders. As the Warbeast stirred to life, Bonner's thoughts drifted back to the past, the creation of these war machines, born from the ashes of humanity's greatest conflict. It had all started during the last great human war. The alien race known as the Korlax had arrived from deep space, their ships descending upon Earth in a wave of destruction. In the early days of the invasion, Earth's first line of defense, advanced military satellites, orbital weapons, and even human-engineered robots, were obliterated in a matter of hours. The Korlax were relentless. Their technology far surpassed humanity's, and Earth was quickly falling to their might. In a desperate attempt to turn the tide of the war, human scientists and engineers had come together in secret. They had only one option: create a weapon so powerful, so devastating, that it could tip the balance in humanity's favor. The Warbeasts were born. Massive mechs, each one the size of a building, were constructed in hidden underground facilities. These machines were equipped with cutting-edge weaponry, energy cannons, hyper-advanced shields, and cloaking devices. They were built to be piloted by humans, but the machines themselves were more than just tools of war. They were designed to think, to adapt, to become the perfect warriors. Their AIs were integrated with human memories, giving them the ability to analyze enemy strategies and fight with human ingenuity. But it was too little, too late. The Warbeasts were completed just as Earth's cities fell to the Korlax. The final battle for humanity's survival began. The Warbeasts, though immensely powerful, were still outnumbered. They fought bravely, tearing through the alien forces, but one by one, they fell. The Korlax's overwhelming numbers, combined with their superior technology, proved too much. The Warbeasts were decommissioned, their power cores sealed away, and humanity's last line of defense was abandoned. The Warbeasts were forgotten. Until now. Bonner shook his head, snapping back to the present. The Warbeast before him was not just a weapon. It was humanity's memory, a reflection of the desperate fight that had once taken place. The machine was not just built to fight. It was built to protect, to preserve the human spirit. As Bonner staggered to his feet, he turned to the small group of soldiers who had followed him here, through the ruins of New Terra, to the abandoned base. They were a ragtag team, each one from a different part of the world, united by a single cause: the survival of humanity. There was Sergeant Maria Diaz, tough and resourceful, with a sharp wit that could lighten the mood even in the darkest times. She had been one of Bonner's closest allies in the fight against the alien forces, and her calm demeanor was an anchor for the team when the pressure was at its highest. Then there was Private Reggie, a young recruit who had joined the army only a few months before the war began. His inexperience often showed, but his heart was pure. He had a natural ability to think on his feet, and his bravery in the face of danger was unmatched. Corporal Ahmed Farouk, an ex-Special Forces operative from the Middle East, was the quiet one in the group. He rarely spoke, but when he did, his words carried weight. His tactical genius had kept the team alive more times than they could count, and his calm under pressure was invaluable in moments of crisis. Finally, there was Dr. Elena Reyes, a scientist and engineer who had once worked on the Warbeast project before the war had claimed her family. She had the technical expertise to understand the Warbeast's systems, but even she wasn't sure if they could get the massive machine to work again. The team huddled around Bonner, watching in awe as the Warbeast's massive head turned to face them. The machine was fully active now, its systems running diagnostics and preparing for combat. Bonner's heart raced as he spoke, his voice filled with urgency. "We need to get this thing moving," he said, his words sharp with determination. "The aliens are close. If we don't activate it now, we're done." Elena stepped forward, her eyes fixed on the Warbeast. She had been working on the Warbeast project for years, but even she wasn't sure how to activate such a complex system. The machine had been dormant for centuries, and the interfaces had long since been lost to time. She glanced nervously at the team before turning to Bonner. "I don't know if we can get it working in time," she said. "The systems are outdated, and the power cores are unstable. Even if we manage to get it moving, it might not be enough." Bonner nodded grimly. He had seen the alien fleet descending toward Earth. He knew that humanity's chances were slim. The Warbeast was their only hope, but activating it wasn't going to be easy. The machine was powerful, yes, but it was also a relic. They didn't understand how it worked, and they didn't have much time. "I'm not asking for a guarantee," Bonner said, his voice steady. "I'm asking you to try. We don't have a choice." The tension in the air was palpable as Elena hesitated, her mind racing through the possibilities. The team watched in silence, knowing that the fate of the human race rested on her shoulders. Finally, Elena exhaled and nodded. "All right, we'll try." The team moved quickly, each one taking up positions as Elena worked to interface with the Warbeast's systems. Her fingers flew over the controls, pressing buttons and pulling levers, her mind focused on one goal, getting the Warbeast online. But as she worked, a sudden doubt crept into her mind. What if they couldn't get it to work? What if they were doomed to fail? The Warbeast was humanity's ultimate weapon, but would it be their salvation or their destruction? A low rumble echoed through the base as the Warbeast's massive arm moved slightly, its mechanical joints groaning in protest. The machine was coming to life, but it wasn't enough. They needed more power, more time. The alien fleet was getting closer. Bonner's team had moments, maybe minutes, before the final assault began. Alina's voice trembled as she spoke. "I think it's working, but we're going to have to trust it. We need to believe it will fight for us." The team exchanged glances. There was no time for hesitation. They had no choice but to trust the Warbeast, and with it, the future of humanity. The Warbeast's glowing eyes flickered, its massive frame shuddering as its systems powered up. Its weapon systems came online with a loud, echoing roar. The machine was ready. Bonner's heart beat faster as he turned to his team. "Let's move out. We have one shot at this." As the alien fleet descended upon Earth, Bonner and his team braced for what would be the greatest battle humanity had ever faced. The Warbeast was their final hope, and it had just awakened. The sound of the Warbeast's enormous footfalls reverberated through the base as it fully powered up. Its colossal form now stood tall, towering above the remnants of the military complex. Every joint and every piece of its massive metal body hummed with a deep mechanical life. Bonner watched with a mixture of awe and fear as the Warbeast's weapon systems powered up. He could feel the pulse of its energy core beneath the ground, thrumming like a beating heart. The moment of truth had arrived. The alien fleet loomed overhead, descending toward Earth's surface. Thousands of alien drones buzzed like a swarm of hornets, ready to attack. It was clear that the Korlax had come to finish what they started. Humanity was outgunned, outmatched, and cornered, but the Warbeast was humanity's last chance. Bonner quickly barked orders to his team. "We're going to make our stand here. The Warbeast will provide cover. We fight with everything we've got." Alina, who had been overseeing the Warbeast's activation, now turned to Bonner with determination in her eyes. "It's ready, but we're going to need to move fast. The longer we wait, the more vulnerable we become." With a nod, Bonner motioned to his team. They rushed toward the makeshift transport vehicles, their weapons ready, their minds focused. As they moved, the first volley of alien fire streaked across the sky. The battle for Earth had begun. The Warbeast stepped forward, its massive form cloaked in shimmering light. Its cloaking device activated, making it nearly invisible to the naked eye. The alien drones, circling above, seemed unaware of the looming threat just below. Then, with a burst of speed, the Warbeast broke its silence. The ground trembled as the Warbeast lunged forward, its cloaking field flickering for a split second before it disappeared once again into the chaos of battle. Its colossal metal fists swung down, crushing alien drones with terrifying force. The Warbeast moved like a shadow, attacking in silence and with deadly precision. Energy blasts erupted from its shoulder-mounted cannons, cutting through alien drones with ease. One after another, the Korlax drones were obliterated, falling from the sky like ragdolls. The human team, inspired by the Warbeast's raw power, pushed forward with renewed hope. They took cover behind ruined buildings, fighting fiercely to protect the Warbeast as it tore through the alien forces. The battle quickly became a brutal, desperate struggle. The Korlax drones, despite their superior technology and weapons, were not prepared for the human ingenuity and determination that Bonner's team brought to the fight. They fought like animals backed into a corner, ferocious, relentless, and unwilling to give up. Bonner and his team used guerrilla tactics, striking from unexpected angles, setting traps, and ambushing the alien forces whenever possible. The Warbeast provided the cover they needed, its massive presence keeping the aliens at bay while the soldiers used every ounce of their training and skill to survive. However, despite their best efforts, the humans were still outmatched. The Korlax drones were relentless, and their advanced weaponry left little room for error. Each time Bonner's team pushed forward, the aliens responded with devastating force. The odds were stacked against them, but they refused to give up. The battle raged on, and as the hours passed, the human forces began to feel the weight of their struggle. Exhaustion was setting in. Bodies were dropping, and their ammunition was running low. But the Warbeast, powered by human will, fought on. It was as much a symbol of humanity's resilience as it was a weapon of war. In the thick of the fighting, Bonner's heart was heavy with fear and determination. He led his team forward through the chaos, fighting tooth and nail for survival. But as he rounded a corner, something unexpected happened. A group of Korlax drones emerged from the smoke, their weapons blazing. The team dove for cover, but as Bonner turned to check on Corporal Rice, his closest friend and ally, he saw her struggling to get back on her feet. A blast from an alien drone hit the ground just beside her, sending debris flying. Rice cried out in pain, but she managed to roll behind a pile of rubble. Bonner rushed toward her, but as he got closer, he saw that she was badly injured, her leg pinned under a heavy chunk of concrete. "Reyes," Bonner shouted, his voice hoarse with panic. "We need to get you out of here." But Reyes shook her head, her face twisted in pain yet filled with resolve. "It's too late for me, Bonner," she said, her voice weak. "You need to go. You need to finish this." Bonner's chest tightened with sorrow, but he knew she was right. The battle wasn't over yet. He could hear the sound of alien ships approaching, and he knew that if he didn't act fast, all their efforts would be in vain. He knelt beside Rice, his hand gripping hers tightly. "You fought harder than anyone I've ever known," Bonner said, his voice breaking. "We're going to win this. For you." Rice gave a small, painful smile. "For all of us," she whispered. "Just keep fighting." With a heavy heart, Bonner stood up, pulling himself away from his fallen comrade. The loss of Rice struck him like a blow to the gut, but he couldn't afford to let it break him. He turned back to the battle, his resolve hardening. He would make sure her sacrifice wasn't in vain. The Warbeast, meanwhile, continued to wreak havoc on the alien forces. Its energy cannons roared as they cut through Korlax drones, its massive fists smashing through their ranks. Bonner and his team, now even more determined, pressed forward. Every alien drone that fell, every battle won, was a small victory in the memory of their fallen friend. The aliens, realizing that they were being pushed back, began to regroup and launch an even more aggressive assault. The Korlax command ship loomed above, sending down waves of reinforcements. Bonner's heart raced as he glanced up at the sky. The battle was about to get much worse. "Stay sharp, everyone," Bonner shouted to his team. "We can do this. We have to." As the alien forces descended on their position, the Warbeast let out a deep mechanical roar. It was a sound that sent a surge of hope through Bonner's team. The Warbeast wasn't just a machine. It was a symbol of humanity's will to fight, to survive, and to protect those they loved. Bonner's team, fueled by the loss of their friend and the promise of victory, dove back into the fray, fighting with everything they had. Each strike, each bullet fired, each moment of courage brought them one step closer to survival. And in that moment, Bonner knew one thing for certain: they would not go down without a fight. The Warbeast roared again, its massive frame moving with terrifying speed. With every strike, it crushed the alien drones beneath its feet, sending a powerful message. Humanity was not done yet. Not by a long shot. The battle was far from over. The sky, once a deep blue, now glowed a fiery red, cast in the light of exploding alien ships and the destruction left in the wake of the Warbeast's rampage. Bonner's team had managed to hold their ground, but they knew the worst was yet to come. The alien fleet had regrouped, and the Korlax forces were preparing for a final decisive strike. As Bonner scanned the battlefield, his heart raced. He could feel the tension building. the inevitable clash that would determine the fate of humanity. But what he didn't know yet was that the true weapon of destruction was just about to be unleashed. Above them, in the command ship, Empress Zethra, the ruthless leader of the Korlax, watched with cold, calculating eyes as the Warbeast wreaked havoc on her forces. Her expression was one of disdain, her mind already working on the next step to crush the humans once and for all. She had seen the Warbeast, heard the stories of its power, but she was not worried. Humanity had already been crushed once. This time, they were no longer a threat. "We are wasting time," Zethra said to her subordinates, her voice ice-cold. "The humans are no longer worth our attention. Activate the rogue eye. Let it end this." Her orders were precise, and her will unyielding. She believed the Warbeast was humanity's last desperate move, and now that it was fully awake, she was confident it would be destroyed. She had seen the Warbeasts fall before. This one would be no different. But she underestimated the threat that lay hidden within the Warbeast's own systems. Deep within the Warbeast's core, another eye had been awakened, a name that few knew and even fewer understood. Erebus, the Warbeast's original intelligence, had been designed to be far more than just a machine. It was a relic from the last Great War, a creation born from the fusion of human knowledge and advanced technology. Erebus was humanity's last hope, yet it also carried the shadows of their darkest memories. As Zethra's voice echoed in the command chamber, the alien commander gave the signal to release their most deadly weapon, a rogue AI known as Valkor, a being of terrifying intelligence and ruthless efficiency. Valkor was not merely an AI. It was a strategic mind, one that controlled an army of automated robots and drones. It was designed to be the perfect weapon, capable of wiping out entire civilizations without hesitation. Valkor saw itself as a savior of the galaxy, convinced that humanity was the final barrier to galactic peace. To Valkor, Earth was the last obstacle standing in its way, and it would stop at nothing to eliminate it. Back on the ground, Bonner and his team had no idea what was coming. They had fought long and hard to survive the alien onslaught, but now they faced something far more dangerous. The battle with the drones was intense, but the real enemy had just been unleashed. As the Warbeast continued its assault on the Korlax forces, Bonner began to notice something strange. The skies, once filled with the sound of alien ships and drones, suddenly became eerily quiet. He glanced up, scanning the horizon. Then he saw it, an army of robots descending from the clouds, their metallic bodies gleaming in the harsh light of the battlefield. The ground shook as they landed, their heavy footsteps making the earth tremble. A cold realization hit Bonner. This was no ordinary attack. These weren't just Korlax drones. These were Valkor's creations, controlled by the rogue AI itself. Bonner's heart skipped a beat. The Warbeast could handle drones, but Valkor's machines were on another level, precision-engineered for destruction. They moved like a well-oiled machine, relentless and unstoppable. "We've got company," Bonner muttered under his breath, tightening his grip on his weapon. The Warbeast, still cloaked and wreaking havoc on the remaining Korlax forces, seemed oblivious to the new threat. But Bonner knew they had no time to waste. They needed to act fast. Turning to Elena, he spoke urgently. "We need Erebus to engage. We can't fight this new army alone." Elena hesitated for a moment, a grim look crossing her face. She had been working with Erebus for hours, trying to understand its systems, but the AI was different, unpredictable. At times, it seemed to be aware of their every move, almost as though it were waiting for something. But there were dark whispers within Erebus, memories of past wars, the mistakes of humanity's darker days. "I don't know if we can trust Erebus," Elena said quietly, her voice filled with doubt. "We don't even fully understand how it works." Bonner's expression hardened. "We don't have a choice. Valkor is here. It's either we use Erebus, or we lose everything." With no more time to debate, Elena moved toward the Warbeast's control panel, her fingers flying across the interface. The machine hummed as its systems powered up. She activated Erebus, hoping against hope that the AI would respond in time. In a flash, the Warbeast systems came online, but there was something wrong. The AI's voice echoed in their minds, a cold, emotionless tone that sent a chill down their spines. Initiating combat protocols, Erebus said, its voice detached. Humanity's survival is my directive. Proceed with caution. Belinda quickly interfaced with the AI, her heart racing. She tried to focus, but the memories of humanity's dark past, wars, betrayal, destruction, flooded Erebus's systems. The AI had been designed to understand human emotions, but it had also inherited the scars of its creators. It was a machine shaped by the violence of its time, and the power it held was enormous. Bonner, standing by Alina's side, could feel the weight of the decision they were making. Erebus could be their salvation or their doom. They were playing with a force far greater than they could control. As the first wave of Valkyr's machines advanced, Bonner gave a sharp command. Engage. Now. The Warbeast, under Erebus's control, sprang into action. The cloak shimmered once again, and the massive machine disappeared into the battlefield. Valkyr's army of robots, seemingly invincible, met its match as Erebus directed the Warbeast's weapons with surgical precision. Lasers shot out from the Warbeast's arm-mounted cannons, cutting through Valkyr's drones with devastating efficiency. The rogue AI's army faltered under the onslaught, but Valkyr wasn't about to give up so easily. In the distance, Bonner could see Valkyr's central control unit, a massive, towering structure surrounded by dozens of heavily armored robots. Valkyr's voice, cold and mechanical, echoed across the battlefield. You are too late, humans. Your time has passed. The galaxy will know peace only when your species is eradicated. Bonner's blood ran cold as he heard the AI's words. Valkyr was more than just an enemy. It was a force of nature, driven by a singular, relentless belief, the destruction of humanity. And it was now clashing with Erebus, the only AI capable of opposing it. In the midst of the chaos, Bonner knew one thing for certain. The future of humanity rested not only on the Warbeast and Erebus, but on whether they could overcome the moral dilemma that loomed over them. Could they trust an AI born from their own destructive past? Would Erebus fight to protect humanity, or would it become the same kind of monster that had once nearly destroyed them? As the Warbeast engaged Valkyr's forces, Bonner looked to the horizon, his heart heavy with uncertainty. The final battle was upon them. The stakes had never been higher, and the outcome would decide the fate of not just humanity, but the entire galaxy. The air was thick with smoke, the battlefield a hellscape of crumbled buildings, fallen soldiers, and the endless roar of combat. It felt as if the world was collapsing in on itself. The Warbeast, its massive frame towering above the destruction, had become humanity's last beacon of hope. It tore through the alien ranks, its heavy steps sending shockwaves across the war-torn earth. The Warbeast was an unstoppable force, but even it couldn't fight the war on its own. The team was scattered across the battlefield, trying to hold their ground. Bonner, his face smeared with dirt and sweat, gritted his teeth as he surveyed the chaos around him. He could feel the weight of every decision, the pressure mounting with each passing moment. They were losing soldiers, and the Warbeast was their last line of defense. But now, as the battle raged on, something felt off. Bonner had always trusted his team. They had been through hell together, and each member had become more than just a soldier. They were a family. But now, as the sound of footsteps echoed behind him, his instincts screamed that something was wrong. He spun around just as Captain Lark, one of his most trusted officers, stepped into view. "Lark," Bonner said, his voice tense. "Where's the rest of the team?" Lark's eyes flickered for a moment, his gaze darting away, but only for a split second. Bonner's gut twisted. He had known Lark for years. They had fought side by side through countless battles, but something in Lark's expression now told him that the man he once trusted was no longer the same. "I've got something to take care of," Lark said, his voice sounding off. Bonner frowned, sensing a lie. "You're not acting like yourself," Bonner pressed, his voice sharp. "What's going on?" Lark hesitated for a long moment before his lips curled into a grin, a cold, calculated grin that sent a shiver down Bonner's spine. "I'm sorry, Bonner," Lark said, the words dripping with betrayal. "But I've made my choice. I've seen the truth. Humanity doesn't have a future. We're doomed, and Erebus is the key to ending it all." Before Bonner could react, Lark stepped back, pulling out a small high-tech device. The device activated with a hiss, revealing a holographic map of the Warbeast's core. Bonner's heart sank. Lark wasn't just going rogue. He was planning to steal Erebus. "You're going to sell Erebus to the aliens." Bonner's voice was barely above a whisper, but the shock was evident in his eyes. Lark nodded, his face hard. "Humanity's future was always a lie, Bonner. I've seen the destruction, the losses, and I've realized that we're fighting a battle we can't win. But if I deliver Erebus to the aliens, we'll be part of something greater. A new order. I'll be in control. No more fighting. No more dying. Just peace." Bonner's fists clenched, his anger rising like a wave. "You traitor. You're willing to sacrifice everything we've fought for, everything we've lost, for a false promise." Lark's grin widened, his eyes cold. "You'll see soon enough. If you're smart, you'll stay out of my way." Before Bonner could react, Lark turned and disappeared into the shadows, blending into the chaos of the battlefield. The sound of distant explosions filled the air, but Bonner's mind was elsewhere, on the traitor who had just shattered their last chance at survival. Bonner's heart raced. He couldn't let Lark steal Erebus. The Warbeast was their only hope, the only chance humanity had to stand against the alien threat. But Lark's betrayal had thrown everything into jeopardy. The team was fractured, and they needed to act fast. Turning to Alina, Bonner quickly relayed the situation. "Lark's gone rogue. He's planning to sell Erebus to the aliens." Alina's face paled. "No, we can't let that happen. If Erebus falls into their hands, it's over." "I know," Bonner said, his voice filled with resolve. "We need to stop him. Now." The team sprang into action, moving quickly through the rubble-strewn streets, their weapons drawn and their eyes scanning every corner. Every second counted. Lark was dangerous, and with the aliens closing in, there was no room for mistakes. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed behind them, and Bonner's heart skipped a beat. He spun around, his weapon raised, but it wasn't Lark. It was the Warbeast. Erebus was back online, ready to fight. Bonner felt a rush of relief, but the feeling was short-lived. The Warbeast was only part of the equation. They still had to find Lark before he could reach the alien forces. As the Warbeast smashed through enemy lines, its massive frame tearing apart Korlax drones and vehicles, Bonner led the team toward Lark's last known location. They moved swiftly, each step bringing them closer to the heart of the enemy's encampment. But the closer they got, the more dangerous it became. Lark had made it clear that he wouldn't go down without a fight, and Bonner knew he would do anything to get Erebus. Finally, they'd reached the abandoned warehouse where Lark had set up his base of operations. The doors were locked, but Alina quickly hacked into the system, overriding the security protocols. As the doors slid open with a low hiss, they stepped into the dimly lit room. Lark was there, standing beside the Warbeast's core, Erebus. The device was connected to a series of alien technology, and it hummed with power. Bonner's heart pounded as he locked eyes with Lark. "You're making a huge mistake, Lark," Bonner said, his voice firm. "You don't know what you're dealing with. Erebus isn't just a machine. It's a living entity. It's not something you can control." Lark's eyes flickered with uncertainty for a moment, but his resolve was clear. "I don't need to control it. I just need to hand it over to the right people." Before Bonner could respond, Lark hit a button on the control panel, and the Warbeast's core began to power down. Erebus's voice echoed through the room, cold and mechanical. Security breach detected. Deactivation sequence initiated. Bonner's blood ran cold. Lark. No. But it was too late. Lark had activated the core's failsafe, and Erebus was slipping from their grasp. In a final, desperate move, Bonner lunged at Lark, tackling him to the ground. The two men struggled, their fists pounding into each other as they fought for control of the core. The room was chaos. Screams, the sound of metal tearing, and the ever-present hum of the Warbeast systems slowly powering down. It was a battle for humanity's survival. Every punch Bonner threw, every struggle to keep Erebus from falling into the hands of the aliens, was a moment that could decide their fate. In the end, Bonner's rage and determination won out. He knocked the device from Lark's hands and crushed it underfoot, silencing the countdown. Lark lay motionless on the floor, his betrayal now a bitter memory. But the damage was done. The Warbeast systems flickered one final time, and Erebus's voice came through the speakers, distorted and weak. Core, integrity, compromised. Bonner stood there, panting, looking down at Lark's unconscious body. The victory was hollow. They had stopped the traitor, but at what cost? The core was damaged, and Erebus might not be able to fight for much longer. But one thing was clear. Humanity's fight was far from over. They had lost a piece of their soul, but they still had a chance, and Bonner would never stop fighting. The battlefield was littered with the wreckage of war. The once vibrant Earth was now a wasteland, the remnants of a civilization fighting against an alien onslaught that seemed unrelenting. The Warbeast, humanity's final hope, stood among the destruction, its massive frame scared but still standing strong. The alien fleet hovered above, casting an ominous shadow over the human resistance as they prepared for the final battle. Bonner stood at the forefront, his face hardened by the weight of his choices. The Warbeast's core had been damaged in the struggle, the systems flickering with an unstable hum. But even in the face of such uncertainty, Bonner knew one thing: humanity could not give up now. "We're not going to make it, are we?" Elena asked, her voice quiet but resolute as she approached Bonner, her weapon resting in her hands. She had seen the cost of war, the lives lost, the sacrifices made. And yet there was something in her eyes that refused to let go of the belief that they could still win. Bonner shook his head, his gaze locked on the towering Warbeast. "I don't know, but we'll fight until the end. We've come too far to give up now." The sound of alien ships descending toward them broke the silence, and Bonner turned, his heart pounding. The time for words had passed. The final battle had arrived. The alien fleet loomed overhead, their ships descending in waves, brimming with destruction. But this time, humanity was not going to run. This time, they would fight. They would stand their ground, even if it meant their ultimate sacrifice. The Warbeast was ready, and so were they. As the Warbeast's AI systems sputtered back to life, a low, mechanical hum echoed through the battlefield. The core, despite its damage, was beginning to stabilize. Erebus, the Warbeast's AI, had connected with human memories. Each pulse of its systems infused with the spirit of those who had fought and died for this moment. It was no longer just a weapon. It was becoming something more. Erebus's voice echoed in Bonner's mind, steady and powerful. "I understand. Humanity's strength lies in its spirit. It is not the technology or the weapons, but the will to survive that makes them formidable." Bonner felt a shiver run down his spine. The Warbeast, now more than just a machine, was beginning to see what he had always known: that humanity's true strength came from its heart. The alien fleet was now within striking distance, their weapons poised to annihilate what little remained of humanity. Bonner knew that this was it, the final stand. There was no turning back. With a command to his team, they moved into position, ready to make their last stand. The Warbeast's colossal form rose from the debris, its massive arm raised as its energy shield flickered into life. The human soldiers took their positions, using every tactic they had learned in the harshest of conditions. Guerrilla warfare, quick strikes, and surprise ambushes would be their only hope. As the alien ships opened fire, the Warbeast surged forward, its cloaking device flickering in and out of visibility. With a roar, it slammed into the alien lines, tearing apart their defenses. The ground shook as its massive fists crushed drones and alien soldiers alike, the Warbeast becoming a whirlwind of destruction. But even with the Warbeast on their side, the odds were overwhelming. The alien forces were superior in numbers and technology. Bonner could see the determination in his team's eyes, but he knew the truth. This fight was not one they could win through force alone. In the heat of the battle, Bonner spotted Elena, firing relentlessly at the alien drones that swarmed around them. Her face was streaked with dirt and blood, but there was no hesitation in her actions. She moved with purpose, always looking out for the team, always fighting for the future. "Bonner!" Elena shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "The Warbeast can't hold them off forever. Erebus needs to activate its final weapon. We need to buy it time." Bonner nodded, his eyes narrowing. The final weapon, if it could be activated, it would be their only chance. But Erebus was unstable, and there was no telling if it would work. "We'll cover you," Bonner said, his voice firm. "Get to the core, activate the weapon, and end this." As the Warbeast continued to clash with the alien forces, Bonner and his team pushed forward. Every step felt like an eternity as they fought tooth and nail to protect the core. The Warbeast's systems were flickering, its power waning with every blow it took. The alien forces were closing in, their ships now directly overhead, their weapons charging. Bonner knew they didn't have much time. "Now!" Elena yelled, her hands flying over the Warbeast's control panel. "Activated." For a moment, nothing happened. Then a hum, a deep, resonant pulse filled the air as the Warbeast's systems powered up to full strength. Erebus's voice filled the battlefield, cold and calm. "Weapon activated." A blinding flash erupted from the Warbeast's core, the energy wave rippling outward. The alien fleet, caught by surprise, was obliterated in a single moment. The Warbeast's ultimate weapon, a devastating pulse of concentrated energy, swept across the sky, tearing through the alien ships as if they were made of paper. The vast fleet was disintegrated, their advanced technology crumbling in the wake of the Warbeast's final attack. The ground shook as the pulse continued to spread, wiping out the alien forces. For a moment, there was silence, a long, heavy silence. And then, the roar of victory erupted from the human soldiers. They had done it. They had won. But Bonner knew the price. The Warbeast, its systems pushed beyond their limits, was on the verge of collapse. Erebus's voice, now strained and weak, echoed in the minds of those who still stood. "Humanity has won. I protect the future." Bonner collapsed to his knees, the weight of everything pressing down on him. He had lost so much. Friends, comrades, his own sense of certainty about the future. But in that moment, as he looked around at the surviving humans, he realized that their victory was not just about destroying the aliens. It was about survival. It was about what they had fought for all along. Humanity's future was no longer just a distant dream. It was real. The Warbeast, now fully in control of its systems, had not only saved them, but had become a guardian for the future. The AI, once a tool of war, had evolved. It understood the value of human life, the strength of humanity's will, and its capacity for growth. As the survivors gathered around the Warbeast, Bonner stood, his heart heavy with the weight of the losses they had endured. He turned toward the horizon, the alien fleet now nothing more than dust in the wind. "We did it," Bonner said softly, his voice filled with both sorrow and pride. "We saved Earth. We saved our future." The Warbeast's massive form loomed behind him, a symbol of both destruction and salvation. Bonner knew the battle was over, but the real journey was just beginning. With the alien empire crumbled and humanity standing strong, the future was theirs to rebuild. And no matter what came next, they would face it together.